Welcome back to the White Gray Black Weekly Manga Podcast. My name is Bruce, the producer of the White Gray Black YouTube channel. With me again this week is Gautam.
What's up, fellas?
This is a podcast where we talk about all of the latest Japanese manga releases, at least anything that is released in the West. It's a manga book club surprise. Thank you for being here. This week we are talking about an isekai, finally. I don't know if we've talked about maybe one pseudo-isekai in the past. There's a new series dropped today called Samurai in Another World by Keigo Saito. A couple more short page goofs. We're going to talk about Nick and Lever up to chapter 77, and Gautam is cut up on Vibration Man up to chapter 8. So we're going to talk about that and see how you actually do a high school superhero series, and I hope that Horikoshi listens in. Let's start with a little bit of news. Start with the bad news. Today, I believe we're recording this June 14th. John Romita Sr. passed away. Now that is not a manga name. That is a Western comic name, but that is easily one of, if not the largest art name in comics, who is still living. This guy is, when you see Spider-Man or the X-Men and you think about the age kind of from maybe the late 60s through like all through the 70s and early 80s, this John Romita Sr., that's the art that you are seeing. That's the art you're imagining. I have a cover of one of his Spider-Mans here. I think I have another one. Yeah, here is his Avengers. He's responsible for this art, this design. His son, John Romita Jr., is also a really big artist. But yeah, this guy, like I said, literally defined an era for Western comic art. He was the look of 60s Marvel, 60s, 70s Marvel. Yeah, and it's a big loss. He was very old. I believe he was like 91 or 88 or something like that. Big loss there. You'll probably see a lot of you'll see some stuff on Twitter, maybe paying him tribute and stuff. Just wanted to call out comics in general. John Romita Sr. is a big name. So rest in peace. Hope the family's doing okay there. And yeah, go and just check out his art, and you will see. It's kind of like reading Lord of the Rings and seeing all the stuff that it was inspired after it. John Romita Sr. is like the Lord of the Rings of comic art. He is the original guy who did sort of everything. He was monumentally large in the sort of style influence of comics throughout the years. So
interesting. Was he just a Marvel guy, or was he a DC guy too?
I believe he did a little bit of both. I believe he's most well known for the Marvel stuff he did. He's most well known for Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
He drew have you ever seen there's a famous panel, let me go find it.
Where they're all pointing at each other.
No, that's from the TV show, so he would not have drawn that. There's a very famous MJ panel where Spider-Man is like first meeting MJ, and she's like, "You lucked out, Tiger." Have you ever seen this?
That doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah, here it is. So this is a pretty iconic comic moment. I believe this is the first time Peter meets MJ. It's like, "Peter Parker, I'd like you to meet my niece." "You mean that's Mary Jane?" And she does the like, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot."
Oh, okay. It's really funny that MJ looks hot, but Peter looks like a little baby. Like his face looks like a child's face. I think it's the blushing cheeks that do it.
Yes. That is how classic Spider-Man should be, especially on meeting MJ. And like, they have obviously changed kind of the character that MJ is over the years, but originally she's like, I mean, it's the typical male 1960s fantasy. She's bombshell gorgeous. She's a supermodel. She does acting, right? And yeah, Peter's a fucking dweeby guy, a nerd. He's the nerd in class. So anyways, rest in peace, John Romita Sr. In other news, we've got another. I won't transition like that. I was going to give us a rest in peace transition. 1 year anniversary, I believe, last weekend of Rory Dragon being published. Still no sign of that returning. Just wanted to kind of point it out that, like, wow, it has been a year since Yuri Dragon came out. broke a bunch of online records, published 6 chapters and then pieced. I assume there is something big going on with the author, not just
Yeah, that's
this is
sad.
not this is not the kind of thing where it's like, oh, I started a serialized manga and wore myself out and overworked myself drawing a couple of chapters. There's obviously some other kind of health or family issue or something going on. I saw people on Twitter hypothesizing like they could have been pregnant. They had no idea they were getting serialized. Who knows? I don't even know if we know if the author is male or female, so could be anything. I hope they come back because I think Rory Dragon's really good. And if you want a complete story, the one shot closes some stuff off. So definitely go give that a read.
It was unique, and I like Ruri Dragon a lot because Ruri herself was kind of just like an imperfect character, right? Like not very standard fare. She had like a lot of issues, and I like that the author was willing to make their main character kind of just shitty at parts, and
just very rebellious teenager energy of like they're a good person, but also they're like. They don't want to do everything you tell them to, and they don't want to, follow the rules all the time.
They're a kid. Exactly. I like that. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it comes back. You're right.
I hope it does come back because the stuff in the one shot, minor spoilers, she like goes and meets her dad, who is a dragon. And that stuff is actually maybe the best part of the one shot. So I do hope we get there eventually. Other news. Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Shonen Jump Plus, a guy named Momiyama, reveals that around 80% of the platform's series are being published overseas. That is very cool. And around 30% are selling, quote, better overseas than in Japan. What do you think about this?
I wish we could see details, sales details on that, because I'm very curious as to what is selling better overseas.
Yes, me too.
I assume, if I had to guess, I would assume everything that is popular right now is probably selling better overseas because Japan's pretty small. So I assume our Sakamoto days are, well, maybe not Sakamoto days, maybe Mashal, maybe One Piece, maybe Hero Academia, maybe all that stuff is, if I had to guess, would be selling better overseas just because of law of large numbers,
Yeah, I you're coming at the same angles I was going to hit. I do wonder, it's, if a One Piece volume sells, they sell a lot in the first week or two to, 500,000 copies in Japan. It's like, okay, well, there's, all of France loves One Piece. Mexico loves One Piece. The US is coming up on more One Piece. We're also big fans. And there's, 350 million people in America. France is, I'm going to guess at the population of France, and it's proven wrong. France is 120 million people. And Mexico is a similar size, if not larger. I want to say Mexico's 200 million, in that range. So, yeah, and Japan is what, 50, 60 million people? 80 million? 90? I don't know. I know the population of the United States, and I don't know any other populations. Yeah. Anyways, law of large numbers, you are correct. I would definitely be curious to see which things it is. I think actually the newer something is, and the more simupubbed, I guess you could say it is, I would bet that they're catching up. So, for example, New Sakamoto Days dropped. I don't think we don't have the sales record for this week just because it wasn't super interesting. New Sakamoto Days does 40K, and it's number 7 ranked in Japan. It's like, okay, well, when that volume hits everywhere else, the United States and everything, is that selling 40,000 copies? Maybe, probably.
Yeah. I would think, right?
Yeah. I don't think we beat Japan on One Piece. I would think that it's going to be new things, right? Like, I think Dan probably, specifically talking Jump Plus, which I think is what Moriyama was talking about here.
I think like Spy X Family definitely sells better outside of Japan,
Yeah, I think Spy Family, Dan, potentially Marriage Toxin. That's one that I see a lot of people talking about that I need to read and catch up on. So
I bet, not a country, but I bet Latin America in general single-handedly carries Dragon Ball Super.
Absolutely. I was going to say, Dragon Ball Super, I think is that Manga Plus or Jump Plus?
It publishes monthly, so probably.
Oh, so it's probably, so it could be. Or it might just be in monthly Shonen Jump or whatever it's called.
Too many magazines. Not sure.
Yeah. So the big interesting thing here to me is more that I think this is the start of a wave. I don't think this is the end or the crest or the top of the wave. I don't think the wave is crashing down. I think we will continually see the rise of anime and manga in the West and in places other than Japan, uh, pretty continually until Japan is forced to pay attention, essentially, until the money is too big to pass up.
I think it's already too big to pass up, to be honest. Uh,
For a lot of things, yes, but I see. I think if they were just looking at the money, we'll talk manga publishing specifically, right? So, for instance, something like Kindergarten Wars that gets published on Japanese Jump Plus goes on for, I mean, 6 months maybe before they say, okay, we're getting a Western release, 3 chapters at a time, doing the catch up, and you're getting physical releases, blah, blah, blah. There is a world where almost every manga that gets published from the big guys, they just go, yeah, instantly publish it in English. That broadens our reach from all of Japan, which is 80 million, however, 60 million people, to every English speaking country, right? That's English speaking or, dual English speaking, right? Like most of Europe, if they know 2 languages, it's English and another language. I know that like all of the Norway, Finland, almost all of those people just speak English. Lots of Germans know English, lots of French people, Spanish people, right? It's if you publish something in English, you've essentially at least quadrupled your available people who can buy your product.
I do think that publishing in English and in other countries is a little bit expensive, so I don't think we'll be able to see like the smaller stuff or the shitters, like a random isekai that's like written. I don't think we'll ever see that. In a similar way that Japan will never see any of our indie movies, or most of our indie movies.
True. Yeah, it is a little bit. Yeah, it is a little bit different to. Although I don't know. Here's the thing, though, with digital publishing media like like the Viz site and app, like K-Manga, like Manga Plus, it is actually pretty comparatively cheap, I would say, to bring those things published and see what the reception is before you commit to a physical release. Because the big expensive thing is the physical release, right?
Right.
It's you pay. I mean, translators get paid by the word, I believe, which is I think kind of a shitty way to do it, but whatever. But somebody translates a chapter for. I'm going to take a wild guess. What could it cost, Michael? $10? $200 or $300 probably, right? To like translate a chapter and publish it. Maybe it's $1,000. I don't know. Let's be generous. Let's say somebody gets paid $1,000 to translate a chapter once a week. Skip a couple of weeks, you're making $50,000 a year to publish. If that catches on, the physical release costs you, a faction of, I would say almost 10 to bring that to an actual physical release, right? Let's say you want to print. Do you think you're going to sell 10,000 copies in America? Surely that costs $500,000 to $5 million to do that, and sell those at $10 or $12 each. So.
Yeah, but even from the digital standpoint, right? Like at the moment, right, the underground, not really read manga are still translated in free from scans, right? And
True.
The thing is, I think I don't read most manga out there, even then. So I wonder if even if it's on a catalog like K Manga or Manga Plus, and it's like not very mainstream. Will it? I wonder if that's worth the investment even at that point, because it's free right now and it's not worth the time investment sometimes. So I don't know. I see the point, and I think it's very possible since Netflix does the same thing to pad out their catalog. But
right, yeah.
I wonder. I just wonder how things will be like 10 years from now for manga in general.
Yeah, it is an interesting time to be in the space and paying attention to what's happening because the more apps are coming out. I think just kind of one last point before we move on. I do think that when these Japanese publishers catch on that if they just publish everything, you're going to catch more people. I think you're going to be able to advertise to those people. I think that's actually the big part that they're missing out on with kind of leaving it to scanlators to, is Frieren is popular in the West. Now we'll get a translation for it, 6 months, a year, 2 years into it. I understand they're sort of low risk. We'll just stop and wait and see. But if they have complete control from the start, they also end up owning things like, again, I'll use Frieren as an example, right? We went, I want to say 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. No, it was maybe 2 years right under, a Frieren being fan translated and having no official translation in the West. It is now, I believe, we haven't gotten a chapter in a while, but it is now, I believe, being officially translated. If they had started publishing that on their end immediately, and I think it still would have caught on. I think that they would have known sooner. They would have had the information. They could have, again, there's ads on websites. That's a big thing that, everybody wants to talk about. It just seems to me from every business standpoint that I can think of that it's just smarter to just try and publish all these things digitally in the West. And if they catch on, if one thing catches on and 6 things don't, I still think you've made your money back, even just on the translations. So I hope that in the future we see more things. The big thing on Jump Plus that actually we don't get a lot of is we don't get a lot of one-shots they get in Japan. There's a lot of these new authors that we'll talk about getting their new series. That's like, oh yeah, a year ago they had a one-shot published on Jump Plus, and it's like, okay, but it wasn't translated for the West, so we don't have it. And there's a lot of them that come out on Japanese Jump Plus that, scanlators have to go and find and care about, and there's a lot of stuff to scan. So
yeah, I feel like scanlation is all just passion work, and
for sure.
I think the only reason not much has changed catalog wise is because scanlations are just free market research for any manga or comic company to test how popular a series is before publishing it.
Right, yeah, like we're talking.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, we probably lingered a bit too long on this. Let's go to the next
we'll see. Let's have the shortest, spiciest conversation we can about the next point. So Osamu Tezuka. So Tezuka is most well known for Astro Boy, known as kind of like the grandfather of manga. We talked about him a couple months ago, I guess, when I finished Pluto. I gave a little quick history lesson on him. He has a series called Blackjack. Blackjack is going to be getting a new chapter written by AI with help from ChatGPT-4 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the series. How do you feel about this?
I think it would be a funny joke, but aside from that, I don't know. I don't value it as serious art.
Yeah, agreed on that point. I think this is dangerous because Tezuka is dead.
Okay, got it.
Yes, I believe he died lots of in the 90s or late 80s.
Then it's just a bad idea.
Yeah, well, and I don't.
Isn't the point of his work a huge focus on humanity and the goods and bads of it? Like,
especially the Astro Boy stuff, I would say yes. I mean, I'm speaking mostly from reading the Urasawa's version of Pluto, but I did read some of Tezuka's version. It's the similar type of thing. Yeah, Astro Boy is the story of Pinocchio, essentially, right? Of I want to be a real boy. Yeah, this is in bad taste, but at the same time, from what I know about Tezuka, he might kind of think this is cool. He wrote several times in his series about I get not AI because he wouldn't have called it that, right? But sort of this, you can tell this robot what the story you want to hear, and it will create the story for you. So he might have actually been pretty interested in this. That being said, as much as I am interested to read it, I think this, I won't even say this toes the line. I think this crosses the line, right? Also, this is, I don't know, the backlash they're going to get for this, I think, is not going to be good.
I think the backlash is
this is tone deaf.
It's tone deaf, exactly. And even if some people do really like it, and if it was Tezuka's intent or something he would like, I think
Yeah.
there are enough people online that want to be outraged by something that this will just be an easy target. Um, Also, it's just tone deaf in general. Like, I don't think it's
Yeah.
hyper offensive, or uh, I don't even think the intent is bad. I think it's like it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
I just think
Right.
it's a bad idea. It doesn't sound interesting.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I would assume that what generally for me, the bad, quote unquote, part of AI is not necessarily the generation of something from learning or from training. So for instance, video games and other people have been using essentially these same type of AI generation tools to make things like, oh, I need you to randomly generate me some rocks. And the reason why I don't think that's a problem at all, I think that it's great, is because they hire an artist or they pay somebody and say, hey, we would like to own your 50 rocks that you've drawn. We're going to feed it to our system and it's going to generate us 500 more rocks that we're going to place in our world. All of that is fine because you are either paying the person for their rocks, or or they know and are aware that they are creating something which is going to be fed into a machine for AI to learn and to spit out more of it. To me, the big issue with AI is you're training it on people who have not given consent of their art to be included, and then you're generating, you know, duplicates is not the right word, but you're generating something from that art which was not consent to be fed to that. So that all of that to say, there's a little bit of nuance here because Blackjack and Tezuka's work is probably owned by a company, right? And if all they are doing is only feeding it his work and then saying, okay, generate it, and if they have ownership of that property, I'm okay with that, right? If an author wants to say, I have fed an AI only my own books and I've had it generate a book from only training on my books, that's okay, in my opinion, right? The person is given permission, they've consented, they are only feeding it their own art, and the AI is only going off what you have taught it, right? It isn't conglomerating. I mean, the big reason the AIs come into the forefront now is because of these huge, massive data sets that it's collected, which is all this non-consenting content. And that's why they're so quote unquote good and better now, is they've been trained on all that. So all that to say, if whoever owns this Tezuka stuff, or the Tezuka estate or whatever publisher, if they're saying we're only going to feed it Tezuka's work and it's just going to spit back out another thing that it thinks Tezuka might have written, sure, maybe it's just okay then. I still think it's a little tone deaf. I think that most people who bite back at AI don't have this nuanced take that I have, where, if the person providing the original art consents and understands, and it isn't this massive training from all these people who didn't consent to have their art collected and trained on, it's okay. I think most people see AI
You
and
don't
think
think
bad
most people
because they
have that
don't
take?
think.
I don't
I
know.
think
I
most
haven't
people
seen much of the
who,
discourse, but I feel like that is such a
yeah,
reasonable take that
yeah,
I would be
thank you,
surprised
but
to hear if
I
like
think most people who know enough about AI realize that it is not actually the sort of generative section of AI that is bad, right? The production of a new thing automatically is, I mean, autofill is technically a form of AI. It is the same thing, right? It reads what you have typed, it reads what other people have typed. You start typing a word and it says, hey, I'm going to fill in the rest of this word because I've been trained and I know that usually this is, after the word, after the word weekly, we usually have the word manga, right? Yeah, after the word manga, we usually have the word news. I can fill that in because I have been trained on a huge data set of people typing. I know that, and I am generating you the next word, right? But people do the, like, oh, use autofill to complete this sentence. Like autofill, that's kind of generative AI, right? That's been trained on words, that's been trained on sentences, that's been trained on patterns, and it is generating the next word for you. So most people don't get mad at the, Apple's autofill typing thing. I'm certainly not mad about it. Who cares? Because the generative part isn't the bad part. The bad part, right, is taking someone's art that they've produced and posted online and saying, "Oh, I'm going to train my AI on it." And it's going to know your name and it's going to know your style. And so if someone wants to go, and if I want to go in to Mid-Journey, or maybe not Mid-Journey, I don't know. I have not used a lot of the art generative AI stuff, but if I were to go in and say, hey, produce for me a Spider-Man cover that looks like it's drawn by John Romita Sr., his art is in that big data set because his art is everywhere online. And he probably didn't get contacted and asked if his art could be included and trained on that. And his art is also training anytime you want to generate something like, oh, generate me, 1960s Marvel comic art. It's going to look at John Romita's art and put that in there. And again, that's, his art is not, he did not consent to give that art there. So that's, again, I think that anyone who knows of the way that, and AI is such a misleading term. I could go on a whole tirade about that. But anyone who actually,
well, art is innately iterative, right? So when you create art, you're inspired by art that came before you, and that shit's in the AI, right? That shit's been in the algorithm a few times through. So I understand the fear of getting something you passionately put your heart to and still currently love done in an instant without any effort. It's like, it's like something you put your life into is replaced by something that can do it in 5 seconds. That I get that fear. So I understand that perspective. And if it's creating art that inspired your art, then I don't know where the line is there. I guess I have no opinion. I'm not an artist, so I can't speak to it, but I understand and can empathize with the fear and stress that could cause people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the questions you're asking are exactly the ones that a lot of people are and should be. So we won't spend too much time on AI. It is not something that I know enough about it, but not enough to speak on it for more than I already have. So
yeah, same.
All right.
Also, having not consumed the discourse, I feel like if I say anything more, I'm putting my arm in a hornet's nest.
Yeah. Boy, that's actually just bad news all over.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm reading the news I wrote down. It's like, wow, there's not a whole lot of good news this week.
Let's keep it going, baby.
Yeah, let's go. Viz Media is increasing the price of their manga volumes. Wah, wah. $9.99 titles will now be $11.99. This is most Shonen Jump and Shonen Sunday titles. $12.99 titles will now be $14.99. That is Viz signature titles, a little bit more elite there, I think. And $20 titles will now be $25. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure hardcovers, Fist of the North Star Perfect Editions, for example. I don't buy a whole lot of manga. You own more than I do, but not very much, if I understand. How do you feel about a price increase here?
I think it's really reasonable. Manga was like $10 when I was in high school. So pushing it up to 12 to keep up with inflation is really not that crazy to me. I think I'm surprised it wasn't done earlier. I don't know how popular that opinion is. Of course, price increases are not well liked anywhere, but I think this one feels like a long time coming.
I've had the same discussion over video games when they got the boost to $70 kind of in the past year or so. I was like, I paid $60 for a game in 1997. Like, I'm sorry, games were far, far behind inflation. Games should have been $70 in 2009 or something. But yeah, I mean, kind of the same thing here. It's understandable. Obviously, you don't like this if you're a big manga collector. This increases, by about 20% the cost that you're paying for your manga. I take a bigger issue with the sort of access that this prevents, but I've spoken on this in the past. I am more concerned on the fact that one of the reasons that manga is so diverse and populous in Japan and why there's so many published is that a manga volume in Japan is like $3 or $4, almost always. Like a brand new One Piece drops, I think it's like 499 yen. I think it's which is like $4 for us. I wish that manga cost that much over here because, hey, you're taking some kid to, Target or Walmart, you're going to get him a book or a toy or whatever. It's like, buy him 2 manga volumes. There's another manga fan you've made for life if they were that cheap. But they're not. They're the same price now as, a book comics already are.
Yeah, those have always
more overpriced than this,
overpriced,
I would say. It is still cheaper than a comic book, I would say, but it's also not color. So, Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you just were with the AI stuff. I don't collect. I own one volume of manga. I am a massive consumer of the media, and I am fully happy to consume it digitally. I owned volume 1 of Dan to Dan, and I paid, I think, $12.99 for that, or $10.99. So
Yeah,
happy for
and
it.
honestly, I think the reason they are hiking it now is because the shonen has accessibility options like Manga Plus for the digital medium, and with the tidal wave of new manga readers you mentioned earlier, I think they see this as the perfect opportunity to hike the prices and just get some confirmed buys. You know, it's like 20% more revenue, ideally, in
Yeah, I
their
mean, yeah,
eyes.
literally, it's pretty much a flat 20% raise across the board. I think it's like 18, 17, 22% or something. But yeah, they're planning for the future, because I think you're right. I think they see a new wave of people coming to the table to buy and read manga, and there's already a bunch of us here. So, yep, unfortunate but understandable. All right, do we have any good news in here? Yes, we do. The next one is a really cool one. Um, so an animator named Henry Thurlow is going to become the first Western and possibly the first non-Japanese director of any episode of the One Piece anime for episode 1066, which I believe airs maybe today or tomorrow in Japan.
Oh,
I
tight.
think it's Friday night it airs in Japan, so it might be Friday. From what he tweeted, and I follow him on Twitter, he says that he actually might be the first non-Japanese director of an anime episode at Toei all time, who's the animation studio that does One Piece.
That's awesome. I wonder if he gets the episode.
His
Yeah,
episode is going to be, minor spoilers here, it is one of the Law and what's his name versus Big Mom. It
kid.
might be the finale to that.
Cool. That's
So,
hype.
yeah, it's cool. He's one of the guys that, I don't know if you saw any of this discourse, but people are complaining about the like aura piece, where it's like, oh, everybody just has like a glowing like Dragon Ball Z glow around them, and a lot of people didn't like that. He was not responsible for that. He was, I guess, a participant in that. He drew some auras in a lot of his shots. He had some funny takes on it, though. He's like, I'm directing an episode. I can make the auras as big as I want now. He seems like a really cool guy. I've actually been following him for a while, just because I noticed that he was doing a lot of the really cool cuts in the last year in Wano in One Piece. So
I actually
really
remember
cool
this
to
guy
see that.
too. He mentioned that he worked on
Yeah.
the not aired yet, but the Luffy Gear episode that will
Oh,
come out.
really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, he's a really good animator. I followed him because he's a really good animator. He's working on One Piece, so why not?
Yeah.
So that's really cool news. This also plays in. I don't know if you remember. We should maybe next week. Let's do a check in on our bets from the beginning of the year and see where we are in all of those. I don't think any of them have come true, but I also don't remember all of them. One of mine was that one of the big three publishers publishes a manga by a Western author. I actually don't think that's going to end up happening this year, but this is a step forward for that prediction, in that, hey, maybe we don't get, a manga in Jump by someone who's not Japanese, but we do get an episode of One Piece directed by a Westerner. So baby steps forward, Japan.
True, but I will say that Radiant exists, which is I
What
think
is Radiant?
I think the only Western French manga artist.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the only one I know published by Viz. But I aside from that, I don't know anyone from the West who created anything aside from the Radiant author, this guy, and the musician for Made in Abyss.
Oh, it does the Australian guy. Yeah, I know what you're
Australian
talking
guy.
about.
I'm forgetting everyone's names, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I also have forgotten his name. Yeah, he talks to the Trash Taste guys all the time. Yeah, I think Japan is slowly, as they tend to do in their conservative nature, they are slowly opening up to kind of working with other people and doing that kind of thing. I mean, even in video games I've seen, I think post-COVID, and since things have opened up, we've seen more Japanese people come over to conventions and do stuff like that. one of the producers from Orange, the 3D animation studio that did Trigun Stampede, came over and did like a whole tour of cons with some of his group. That's not, I mean, usually in the West in the past at those conventions, we've gotten, Viz Media will come, or, Weekly Shonen Jump will send, somebody and they might do a panel, but it's not really anybody of note, right? It's not like the producer and 6 major animators from a studio that made a Trigun anime that was a huge hit. But also, I mean, we're getting, more Western video game people. I'm thinking of like the Square Enix guys that did all the Final Fantasy stuff. They just were at the Summer Games Fest this past week talking and showing off their game, and not just like anybody, right? This is like the big guys, like the producer and the director are like in America showing off the game and with a translator and stuff. So I think Japan is turning the corner, I guess, on these kind of collaborative works. Now, I don't know how far behind something like a Western published manga will be, but I think it's only a matter of time before some Western published one-shot wins one of their awards and they start to take notice, right? Because they give away like a monthly or yearly, like, oh, what's the best, creators one-shot award, all that kinds of things. Eventually, someone that's not Japanese will win that, and all the Japanese people will eat it up and say, this is amazing, we want more of this, and it'll happen then. Maybe not this year, but it's coming soon, I think. It's going to be sooner rather than later.
I'm curious about that because I mean, like, Western published stuff is popular there. Like, there's Star Wars is huge. Like, Spider-Verse blew up there. Like good Western stuff does come out there. But at the moment, you're right. Like, everything is in its own lane. I'm curious to see more kind of international crossover between manga and just people outside of Japan. I think it'll happen, but I think it'll be a ways out.
Yeah, I mean, and last note, but we saw that Shueisha's getting into the webtoon, for example, business. So they're reaching out to Korea, who's a Korean style, which Korea and Japan don't like each other. If you don't know the history of that, look it up. It's pretty brutal. But yeah, I think Japan is just, they're a little bit slow to that kind of worldly table. But I think a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing in anime and video games and manga, I think manga is last in that. I think they will be the last one past the post, but I think that they are in that flow.
Agreed.
Cool. I'm not going to read that one because that one's embarrassing and it's about VTubers. Let's see. Last piece of news. There was a leak of the Dan to Dan anime announcement coming soon. And then there was another leak that said, hey, Bones has something to tell us. I think like the first week of July. So
match made in heaven.
Let's put two and two together.
Match made in heaven, if that's the case.
I think the Mob Psycho team at Bones is one of, if not the best group of people to probably do Dan to Dan. I don't know of any group that would be better other than maybe you give it to...
Not even Ufotable is better than
for Ufotable, given enough time, is sort of like the perfect anime studio. Like if you, especially for action, it's kind of like if you just give Ufotable enough time and money, they will make... I mean, they made Demon Slayer, which is, in my opinion, as a manga, a pretty garbage series, look really good and made it way more popular than it deserved to be. So I would trust Ufotable with it. But yeah, I mean, but this Bones group...
Bones is the best choice, in my opinion. Is they capture manga style, like the style of the manga, while making it look amazing and animated, better than anyone, in my opinion.
Go watch Mob Psycho. Go read a little bit of Mob Psycho and then watch it, and you'll be like, yes, you can see one's manga panels in the animation, which is great, which is super good. Hopefully this comes true, because the style and I mean everything in Dan to Dan visually is amazing and perfect and stylized and wonderful. And yeah, I would not want to lose any of that in the anime.
Yeah, you got to give it to someone who can do heavy lifting, because if you're setting anyone else up for failure otherwise.
Yeah, I hope and pray that Shueisha knows what they're doing, and I hope that it's Bones behind it. And I hope we find out in about 2 weeks here.
Yeah, likewise.
Cool. Let's talk about some manga. I will go first.
All right.
There was this neat little one shot that came out, I think yesterday or maybe today. And this is called lots of blood in this one. warning if that is triggering for you. This is called Samurai in Another World. This is by the author Saito Keigo. Chapter 1 is pretty much all set up. We follow this girl who I don't even know if it gives her a name. She just says, "No, I am a samurai. Call me samurai." Oh no, here it's her name's right here. Tsukisuba Ginko. It basically just kind of follows her as she exerts hyperviolence on the world and kills a lot of people. She like kills her master, who she calls father. She like kills this other guy who trains her. She's kind of Saitama-esque, as like she's like the best samurai, is the feeling you get from this first chapter. But she goes through all of that. She like fights in some historic battle and like wipes the field with the other part. She like slew her master. Yeah, here's the sort of fallout of the battle she fights in. It's also got, there's a little bit of humor buried in it, right? So it does the contrasting thing where it's like, yes, this is like hyper violent, brutal murder is bad. And then she'll do something goofy, like picking up this guy's head. She says, "You died in battle. You were shining brilliant to me." And it's kind of funny and goofy. The main character in this, I think, is great. But all of that setup, again, this is called Samurai in Another World. Leads us eventually, she goes to a Buddhist temple and is like, "I just want to die in battle. Help me, blah, blah, blah." And the Buddhist guy is like, "Forget all about that fighting and stuff. Like, pray to the Buddha." And I think she prays, or she's like, "I don't need salvation. I want an enemy. If I'm a demon, then send me to hell, overrun with Rakshasa," which is some man-eating demon in Hindu, Buddhist cosmology. And Buddha just, there's just, this is a great page. Buddha's just like, "All right." And then this is not the next page, but it's like the next thing, she's in classic fantasy world, dragon, etc. stuff. So
I thought that Buddha panel was so fucking funny. It was like
it's so good.
Internet equivalent of typing K to a person, just the letter K.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
Yeah, this is good. But anyway, so she's translated to Another World. Super surprised. I thought this was a super cute. Lots of people like isekai and lots of people don't like isekai. I am firmly on the almost no isekai has ever worked for me. I like Konosuba anime. I thought Re:Zero was okay.
I didn't like Re:Zero.
I watched season 1, I think. Yeah, it had its moments. Is there any other?
No Game,
I don't
No
think there's
Life.
any other isekai. I don't.
You're not a fan.
No Game, No Life for me was forgettable. I will say I watched it and I've forgotten about it.
If it was less horny, I would say it's great. But I think it's good.
What is it? The demon. It's a reverse isekai where demon comes and works at McDonald's. McRonald's.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
That one.
Shit, I forgot what it's called. But
what is that called? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But anyways, that one is like okay. That one's good. I really like season 1 of that. I heard season 2 is not very good. But anyways, not big into isekai. This is one of the first isekais where the chapter 1 is like, okay, like this was presented really well. It was funny, goofy, so kind of and serious enough. I am looking forward to more of this. Did you read this, Gautam?
I did.
How do you feel about it?
I thought it was okay. I found the main character to be interesting but wholly unrelatable. So I'm wondering how, and I think the point of isekai in general is for the main character to be very relatable, so that when thrust into a fantasy universe, the audience kind of feels like they're thrust into the fantasy universe, and the characters' reactions kind of mirror their own. Here, they lose that aspect of it, which I think is totally fine, because I could never relate to boring isekai protags anyway.
Yeah.
But her motivation being that she craves an honorable death, makes me wonder how they will make her, because she has to be relatable in some way in the future, right? So I wonder how she's going to develop. And I think my enjoyment of this chapter relies on how the next chapter is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I thought this was a good first chapter, but it reveals its kind of big turn at the end, and so it's definitely going to rely more on what's going forward. It strikes me like it's going to be more I think this is going to be more One Punch Man like. I think she's going to be more like a Saitama isekai than she's going to be, like you mentioned, she's not really the everyman. Although one of my major problems with isekai is that all the main characters are the same boring self-insert dudes. So
Yeah.
I'm thankful for this not being that. I think that is part of what has me so enamored with this, I think, is that it feels, even though it is kind of the exact same as other isekai, it feels different enough, right? She's from kind of the like Shogun era. She isn't from the modern era. It's a girl.
I completely
That's
agree
like
with that point.
honestly a huge change, right? It's not a just a girl straight isekai. She's powerful already. She didn't meet with some god and get some power on the way there.
There are actually a lot of girl isekais, but it's usually
they're all
guys from the real world turning into a cute girl.
That's true.
A fantasy world.
It's that, or it's the what's the genre that you read a lot of that I don't read any of.
Oh,
the
like the villainous genre?
Yeah, villainous. Yeah, the villainous genre. Those are often isekais also. So.
Oh, true. I guess I never considered them that, even though they are.
A bunch of them are. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah, it's just I if you say isekai in my mind, I think of like a fantasy world and a guild system that has A through S or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
rankings and power levels.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Video gamey stuff. Yeah. This was not all of that, and I also thought it was. I thought it was both. I thought it had good action and good comedy, and I liked the main character. I just thought it was interesting. And most isekai, I've read a couple of chapter ones that have come up. Most of them don't. I will read a couple pages and be like, nope, this one grabbed me. So I'm looking forward to more chapters of it.
Yeah, I feel like neutral towards it. But I'm gonna keep reading, and ideally, because I think it needs to be consistent for like a few chapters before I can form an opinion on it.
Yeah, I actually think chapter 2 might be the most important chapter, because if chapter 2 is too tropey or doesn't keep up with the good storytelling, we have seen in the past really good chapter 1s devolve into not good series.
Yeah.
So, chapter 2, I think, has a lot of heavy lifting to do, because it is, what is this isekai actually going to handle, this kind of isekai elements, which we didn't see much of. So we'll see.
With that said, I actually liked, like the art was simplistic at times, but I thought it was generally good.
It's good though. Yeah, I really liked the art in it. I thought
it was interesting. I thought I like this panel a lot with the dragon.
Yeah, the panel with the dragon is good. Staging here is really great. The comedic timing of like her picking up the head and stuff is good. She's like drawn like extra cute and blushing back, which I think
funny.
Stylistic choices like this are great. The Hindu Buddha guy here I think is good. But like this in this one too, like this is a great panel, I think. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, so that's Samurai in Another World by Keigo Saito. So keep an eye out for that. Gautam, tell me about your favorite short form manga here. Tell me about Nick and Lever.
So I think I might have brought a Nick and Lever chapter like months back at some point.
I think you brought it as a One More Thing a while ago. Yeah, like 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, so I love this series. It's stupid as fuck, but it's like smart, stupid jokes, right? They go existential. They have out-of-body experiences. They do all kinds of weird little gags, but the main characters are dumb as bricks. Know that going in. The series has blown up in popularity, by the way, since I last talked about it. Yeah, Reddit fucking loves it, and I get why. It's just stupid and funny as fuck. So yeah, like a running gag is that somehow one of them ends up getting electrocuted through their own idiocy, and they go to heaven and die. Like they get electrocuted and die. And then the next chapter, it's like nothing happened. In this chapter, Lever's phone is running out of battery, and Nick's like, "Hey, give it here, buddy." It's like, all right, and then he connects like the jump start,
the jumper cables
to his own arm. And then the other
ear. Yeah. Did you see this? His like the other one's on his ear.
Oh, I did not even notice that. No, that's so funny.
It's hilarious.
And he's like, "Yeah, all right, give it some gas." And it's just a play on their own gag. It's like, yeah, I'm used to it. It's fine.
I read I real quick went and looked at the most recent chapter, chapter 77, where he's trying to like play a prank on everybody. He's like, oh, it's April Fool's Day. I'll tell a lie. And he's like, look, a UFO, and nobody pays attention. He's like, look, a UFO, and then it's like a duplicate of him comes and talks to his friend, and it like ends like you're saying, like an existential joke of like,
Yeah, the real lie.
I was the
Yeah.
I was the lie, or
My
I was the
existence
joke
is
the
a
whole
lie.
time,
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, my existence is a lie. Yeah, it's like God. This is good proof that what was the like super smartphone series that we talked about, going on 7 or 8 months ago now. You have to be really smart to write really smart people. Catch 22, you also need to be really smart to write really stupid people.
Yeah, make it
this strikes me as a really smart writer writing really stupid people, and it's excellent because of it.
I agree, because he writes the stupidity and just like the bromance. They're all. I would grab a beer with these idiots as long as I don't die along the way. But
yeah.
He just writes like the concepts of what happens to them. He's just really creative, whoever this author is. I also love the art. It's like this weird like paintbrushy style. I don't even know how to describe this.
Yeah, his art is super. It's different. It leans more realistic than most manga I've seen, especially with texture and stuff. Although it is still goofy, which I think that actually contributes, because if these were drawn more cartoony, it would not have the same impact as electrocuting a dude who looks lifelike. So.
Right. Well,
yeah.
and
this author's name is Miyata Kyogoro.
Also, it's rare to see a black guy as a manga protagonist. I can't even
for sure
think of another manga that has a black man as like a protag.
And be honest, that's probably because there's not one.
Yeah. And the best part is that Lover is just a jacked dude. He doesn't look like a caricature like you see a lot of like black people drawn in manga, especially like old ones, right?
For sure.
They're drawn very caricature-y, to the point of like racism, yes.
For sure.
So it's nice to see.
We'll not skip over that.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that not happen here. This is very much you see it, you read it, you have a good little 2-minute chuckle and move on kind of a manga. Yeah. So it's not something you need to marathon. Though there are a lot of good chapters in the middle.
And these series like that are really good for picking up people along the way, like who just like, wow, why is a new chapter of this every day getting this many upvotes? I will click on it. Where are we? That's kind of the same way I got into like Komi-san, which is not a different kind of series, but also one that doesn't require you to understand the premise from chapter 1, because
like episodic, right?
It's very episodic. Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah, this is effectively just like a sketch comedy manga where it's like, the plot, there's no plot. It's just stuff happening to them every chapter, and it's different every chapter. So you can,
these could be posted on TikTok or Vine, and they would like be like viral videos.
Right.
This is like Vine, the manga with these two guys.
Yeah. Oh, and he thinks Nick dies, and the phone is charged to 1200% instead. So
charging complete. Awesome. Yeah, it's so good. Cool. Anything else about Nick and Lover?
No, it's just really creative. I think it's really dumb, and it's just a great time. So if you're bored, go through it.
Awesome. Let's talk about Toki Iwai's Vibration Man. We'll call it Vibe Man. Maybe not. I talked about this when we did our review of all of the new manga, because this is included in that. I think that was 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. You can go check that episode out. But I told you to read this, and you did. You went and read it. So tell me about your impressions of Vibration Man. We've got 8 chapters so far. How do you feel?
Yeah, I thought the first chapter was kind of weird. It felt like a side story and not like a pilot, you know? It didn't really have anything to do with the plot and didn't progress the plot, but it did develop the main character, who I like. He's a lovable idiot. Kind of like dumb characters that are just positive. So he just works in general for me. I think his power is set up to be something completely insane, like maybe a Whitebeard power, like where he just creates earthquakes. But I liked in this chapter he's fighting this kind of domestic terrorist type of person, and who has elastic bungee gum properties of rubber and gum type powers. And he main character doesn't know how to use his powers well. He has a choker that keeps it under control.
He's new.
Yeah, he's new to it. He just got it. But he takes a shard of glass and tries to stab this elastic guy, which doesn't work because the guy is rubbery and the glass doesn't pierce him. But since he has vibration powers, he turns it into like a high frequency vibrating blade, which cuts him.
Like it's like Dune. Doesn't Dune use like vibroblades? There's vibroblades I know in Knights of the Old Republic.
I was
vibroblades.
I think you're right. I think Dune has that.
I think Dune does.
To get through like whatever barrier or whatever.
The shields, yeah, because the shields stop all high velocity things. You have to fight them with like swords or knives, and I think they use vibroblades.
I was
if we're
thinking
wrong,
yeah,
leave a comment.
I was thinking Metal Gear Solid, where all the cyber ninjas they have high frequency blades to cut their
yeah.
shit.
Raiden's got that vibroblade in Revengeance, right?
Yeah,
I think that's a vibroblade. Yeah.
But I thought that was cool. And this is kind of where we left off. They beat the bad guy, and his mentor shows up to like clean up the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
And the guy has time reversal powers to an extent with some conditions, but it seems OP as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So, tell me, I mean, we both agreed, I think, talking about this, that chapter 1 is sort of like the weakest of the series. It's like not very good. Because I remember reading chapter 1 and being like, this is not a very good series. I'm not going to read this. And then I went back and read it when we did the new thing and was like, wait, this is actually kind of good. Like every chapter 1 is more of a like flash forward, I guess, of like, oh, he's got his powers and he uses them and it kind of does a little episodic thing. And then chapter 2 is like, well, this is the start. He doesn't have his powers. Here's how he got them, blah, blah, blah.
It feels like a 0.5 chapter. Don't you agree? Like a kind of a side story at the end of the volume.
It feels like a 0 chapter. Yeah. Like a lot of manga will have the 0 chapter, which is sort of like a setup, but not really the start of the story type thing. But anyways, this is, I kind of like everything about this, even though nothing about it is like really great, but like a couple things are like really good. Like the goofy panel here of him getting punched, like I think that's great. That's fun. I think this is fun. I think this has good action. Like it has interesting powers. Like you mentioned, the MC I think is a lovable idiot. And something we mentioned a bunch is we love stupid main characters. I feel like we mentioned that every week. So, and this is one of the best lovable idiot main characters I've seen. I don't know. I think the series is taking a huge advantage of the kind of superhero genre popularity. I mean, Spider-Verse is big. My Hero came out and people have maybe kind of been trying to copy it, but not hitting the same stride. This is different than My Hero. This is much funnier, goofier. I don't know if I'd call it necessarily more lighthearted. I mean, he does like cut a guy's throat and then is like, I killed a man, which is turned into a goof, but is also kind of serious when it happened. I don't know. It's just a good, solid little series that seems to be, I think it is improving as it goes. So I think there's a lot of potential here. I think that's a big one. I think this is a series with a lot of potential.
I think so too, because I think the main character is interesting, and that is so important for any fucking superhero manga to take off. And I think the comparison to My Hero is apt. The main character is nothing like Deku, and that's a good thing.
Yes, Deku is boring and bad. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best comparison I can give here is that this main character is a lot like Luffy. He doesn't necessarily have like a goal, like become the Pirate King, but he's kind of like an idiot. His power is unconventional, and he's going to kind of obviously have to use it in strange ways to overcome. But I mean, yeah, I'll give the comparison to Luffy because I think it's pretty.
I think it's a good comparison because they're both just completely unconventional powers, and I'm actually like a little bit jealous of, because I try to like think of what would be like an interesting character superpower or whatever. I think this is a very interesting one. You know, like
dude can vibrate.
Yeah.
Okay. So he could. You would think that's. I mean, he could grab someone, shake them, and rattle their brain, maybe. But it's like no, he like makes a vibroblade. Like cool. That's already they have taken what is a quote unquote bad superpower and made it interesting, and it has not fully been explored. Right? He like picked up a piece of broken glass. It's like he hasn't held a real sword and made like a real vibroblade, right? Which I'm sure is an easy power up later on. I also appreciate on this page that it is kind of meta aware of these shonen tropes, right? The sort of his teacher comes in and has the time reverse powers. And the main character yells at him. He's like, if you could do that, why not just do that from the start? Because it's a very like,
Yeah.
very shonen tropey of like, oh, the master holds back his power and puts the main character in danger to see if they can overcome it, or, gives them a chance and they can't because it's early on. And then they swoop in with their super powerful thing. But in this case, it's just like, why didn't you use it? Now, he does give a good, this chapter, this most recent one, was good and interesting because not only do we get this cool little call out of like, oh, hey, why didn't you just use it? Blah, blah, blah. I'm mad, angry. This is funny. I'm doing a meta call out here. The time reverse guy, the teacher, whoever, was like, oh, like this guy's throwing grenades everywhere. I'm using all of my power to like reverse the damage the grenades are doing so that everything isn't like fucked up when we get back to town. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a good excuse. I'll accept that. Smart writing.
I think so too. That's there's another like kind of good subversion goof like that as well. During the basketball chapter where he meets a bunch of other superhero people in the same organization around the same age as him, and their trainer, this guy, the black-haired guy, tells them to all play a game of basketball. And he's put on a team with 2 other people. It's a 3v3, and effectively, they're all using their powers to score a bunch of hoops. And
there's a guy who can fly, and what is it like? It's like an invisible girl or something.
Invisible
like that.
girl,
There's a bunch of kind of like,
ice powers.
Yeah, a bunch of kind of like typical kind of superhero power things. Yeah.
And he subverts their expectations by scoring a basket without using any powers. And then it's like set up to be like a hype moment. It's like, oh, this guy's thinking outside the box. He's not overly relying on his powers to get results. And then they zoom out, like they time skip like 20 minutes to the scoreboard where it's a tie game. And it turns out and they're listing out who got points. And the only points he got in that whole match were the 2 he scored during that one moment. And,
right at the start, yeah.
And he was like, dang, you guys are pretty good at this, huh?
If nothing else, go and read the basketball chapter. I think it's chapter 5 or chapter 4.
One of those, yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny.
That was their best one.
It just takes all those funny tropes of like, oh, you're meeting the other superpowered people and there's a competition, and oh, the main character reveals his power and makes a cool basket, but it's like, nope, that's not what happens. He like makes a normal basket, doesn't use his power. They're all like, wow, your power must be really strong or something, but they're also kind of like looking down at him like, why aren't you using it? But I don't know, it's creative and funny and fun. I like Vibration Man a lot so far. I hope that more people tune in and start reading this, because we've talked again about chapter 1s being pretty powerful, either hooks or kind of dismissiveness, and I really think the really bad chapter 1 they published for this did a lot of damage to it, because if they had just published chapter 2 as chapter 1, I think they have a lot more readers, and I think that it's getting a little bit more publicity and stuff.
I agree. I completely agree. I also think chapter 1 was the least funny of the chapters as well.
Not nearly as funny.
I think one small gripe I have at the moment, which might be fixed going forward, is that the main character is so over the top. He's hilarious and I like him a lot. I think he's probably the best part of the manga, but he's so over the top that I can't take any of the scenes where he's being serious too seriously. I can't buy into his normal person insecurities when they pop up like barely ever, when he's being unhinged and over the top every other moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. I think we will probably get, if this writer is good and sticks to what I think I can tell they're trying to do, eventually we will get what you're talking about is like a lack of stakes, right? Which is that if there's no real threat because everything is always goofy, if there's no real threat, why does any of this matter? I think we will get some stakes. I think that the author playing with those expectations of like, oh, well, every time things have kind of gotten serious, they're broken up with a joke. I can see that seriousness poking through, that the author does want to explore those things.
That's not quite what I was mentioning. It's not the stakes for me. It's like, I'll give you a precise example. There is a scene where he's talking to the female love interest, seemingly, in the school courtyard, and he says, "Yeah, I just got these powers, and they're not very strong, and I'm worried that I'm not even cut out for this." And that makes sense to me, because like people who put like big bravado comes from somewhere, right? He's projecting what he wants to be, but he is so nuts, for lack of a better word, throughout this whole manga, that very human insecurity feels like it's out of character, even though it's not.
Gotcha.
Because he's just so unhinged every other moment we see him.
Yeah. I think this. Yeah. I agree with that critique. I also think I think this author is making the correct choice in trying to explore those things, but not going too deep into them, and staying really fun and energetic for the early chapters. I think that's more important.
I would. I'm cool with it.
I would compare this to like the first couple of chapters of Kindergarten Wars, right? Like the first couple of chapters of Kindergarten Wars are kind of just all fun, funny, chaotic. And then when you get to like the Bomb Girl arc, it's like, okay, then it's real and serious and slows down a little bit. But that's like, 8 or 10 chapters in. So this is going on kind of a similar pace, I would say. I hope we do get that. I think that elevates the storytelling. We'll see though. This might just be fun. Maybe they completely pivot away from any of those insecurities he had, and it's just wild instead. So we'll see.
Hey man, I'm having a good time. So if it keeps being fun, I'll keep reading.
Yeah. I love, just one more call out to this creative use of superpowers. The time reversal guy grabs a little shard of like a barrel, knocks the bad guy into a wall, uses time reversal to like reform the barrel around him. That's cool. That's a cool use of a time reversal power.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of time reversal powers, one more thing. Let's call that's it for manga. Anything else you wanted to mention about Vibration Man or any other manga this week?
Yeah, I guess shout out to Kindergarten Wars. It didn't make our discussions, but it dropped 3 chapters and it was good.
Yeah, really good again. We talked about it last week, so still good.
Yeah,
suggest you read it.
But yeah, that's about it for manga for me.
Cool. Boy, it's a lot of video game stuff happening now and coming soon. My one more thing is Diablo 4, which I started playing because I beat Tears of the Kingdom, which was amazing. Had a great ending. Probably the best climax and final battle since Wind Waker, I would say, as far as Zelda games go. I played the Final Fantasy 16 demo, which was sick. There was new Armored Core footage came out today, which looks awesome. I'm super hyped for that.
Me too.
That's in like a month, right? Isn't that July 20th? When is Armored Core?
Is it really? Damn. Okay.
No, maybe it's August.
I hope it's August, so I have more time to play through Final Fantasy. It is August.
August 25th. Okay, so 2 months away. But yeah. But
okay.
Anyways, all of that to say, yeah, I started playing Diablo 4. It's pretty good. Story is definitely way better than 3. I am enjoying it, trying out some different builds. I'm only like level 18 or something. So, looking forward to putting a little bit more time into that before Final Fantasy 16 comes out. And then, God, what is it? It's like Final Fantasy 16 comes out, Mortal Kombat 1, I think, which I'm not going to play, but that's a big game for everybody. A bunch of other games come out like right in a row here.
Dude, gamers are eating good. There's just stuff for everyone. Street Fighter 6 just dropped, and I hear it's amazing.
Oh, Pikmin 4 is coming out, and I think like Pikmin 4 is coming out the same day as Final Fantasy 16. So I think I will save Pikmin 4, but I do really want to play that. Starfield is announced. That's coming, I think, September or October. They had a big demo. That looks awesome.
Does that look good? I haven't. I'm just like generally uninterested in.
Have you played or liked Skyrim or Fallout or any of those in the past?
I enjoyed my time with Skyrim and I loved Fallout New Vegas, but I haven't liked anything aside from those.
Okay, I think Starfield looks good. It is just Skyrim in space, but I liked Skyrim. I liked Fallout 4. I liked Fallout 3. I had a lot of fun with all of those games when they came out. So excited for this. It's got did you watch the little presentation they put on for Starfield?
No, I've been meaning to. I might do it after this.
There's like an hour-long thing that they put on. There's like shipbuilding and gun customization and planets are procedurally generated, some of them, and all this stuff. There's a bunch of stuff going on in that game, especially shipbuilding has me like, yes, I would like to. One of the best parts in a game series that I absolutely loathe and despise is I fucking love the gummy shipbuilder in the Kingdom Hearts series, especially in 2, even though I hate the Kingdom Hearts games. So this looks like gummy shipbuilder, but NASA parts. So yeah, I think that's going to be good. From now until like end of October, there's going to be a video game out all the time to play.
I just didn't participate in the gummy ship sections. The ship is called the High Wind, and I just put like infinite blocks around it and just flew in a straight line because he could just tank everything, and I called it the Low Breeze.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What have you been up to this week with extra stuff?
Honestly, I have been no lifing Zelda. Just like you.
You're almost there.
I'm almost at the end. It's been great. I actually usually I burn out on open world games, but I'm really not looking forward to this ending. I'm having a good time. So,
yeah.
But luckily, the part of me that is looking forward to it ending is looking forward to Final Fantasy 16. So
yeah. I was in the same boat. I really wanted to play Diablo, but I was like, I'm not playing Diablo at the same time as Tears. I have to finish Tears of the Kingdom first. I end up getting all the shrines, all of the underground stuff, not all the underground stuff, all the underground light routes. So I didn't 100% it, but I did a lot of it. There's still a lot of the things I didn't see that maybe I'll go back someday. I put 120, 150 hours into it, which for me is that's edging on too long of a game. Even Elden Ring, which I absolutely loved. I think that I did in 111, 117 hours. And that was okay, it's about 20 hours too long. 100 hours for a perfect game is right where I want it to end. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is great. You'll be finished probably by next episode we'll record.
I think so.
Maybe we'll talk about a little bit. Maybe a little spoiler talk about it there.
That works. And real quick before we close it, I wanted to hear your thoughts on the demo. How did you like the writing and the gameplay and stuff?
Of Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah,
it's good. I really good.
Good to hear.
Loved the combat. There's tons of complexity there if you want it, even though the combat in the story demo is pretty simple. The writing I thought was really good. I mean, if you've seen Game of Thrones, you will immediately recognize every single trope. The guy you play as starts as almost 100% just Jon Snow. It diverges from that pretty quickly, but you'll see it and you'll be like, oh yeah, it's the shunned child of the king who isn't as respected as his siblings and blah, 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 training to fight. It's literally episode 1 of Game of Thrones.
That's interesting.
I thought the writing's really good. The music is awesome.
I hear the voice acting's good too.
Voice acting's great. They planned around it being English voice acted, and all the voice actors are really good. The epic moments are absolutely epic. I'm a sucker for just big shit. A big, huge castles or big, and this one it's icons fighting the summons essentially from Final Fantasy past. It's going to be good. I'm ready for it. It looks great. The demo was exciting. Super cool.
Yeah, and it's dropping the day after we record our next pod. So that'll be tight.
Yeah, 21st. Yep. Yeah, so that's it, I think, for the main podcast. One thing you'll want to watch out for. Gautam and I are going to be doing a little bit of a read along that we're going to do volume by volume and then record a short little video and talk about it. First thing we're going to try is we're going to do Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind by, what's his name?
Miyazaki.
There you go. Hidetaka, not Hidetaka Miyazaki. That's the FromSoft guy. What is the other Miyazaki's name?
The two goats. Oh shit.
The Miyazaki from
Hayao Miyazaki.
Hayao Miyazaki. Yes. There you go. We're going to be reading that volume by volume. I believe that is 8 volumes total or 7.
7. Yeah.
7 volumes. Got it. Yeah. So we're going to do 7 quick little episodes as we go through that. Hopefully should get the first one out, I think, next week at some point. That'll be a little bit more chill. something that you can just either say, yeah, I've read it and I want to follow along. Or if you haven't read it, hey, pick it up and read it with us. It is on sale. I believe you can get the complete collection from Amazon for about $50 or $60 US. So check that out. We're going to be doing that. Test the water, see how it goes. Who knows? It's also fun. And I really want to read it and chat about it. And I think doing more focused chats about stuff might be fun. So
yeah, I think so too.
Forward to that.
And it's like one of the top manga on my anime list. Also, the collection comes with a cool poster. So if you're interested in that, check it out.
Maybe I will buy it then.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you everyone for listening or watching. Do not forget to check out the YouTube channels, White, Gray, Black, and WGB Weekly Manga Podcast. That's the channel you're on here, probably, if you're watching the video. If you want to listen to us, don't forget we're on all the regular major podcast providers. If you enjoy the video, enjoy the chat, enjoy the manga book club, the podcast, anything, and you want to support us, just give us a like or a follow. Any kind of positive reinforcement you can give us, that's really all we're looking for right now. We just really appreciate it. Maybe if you ring that little bell for notifications, you'll see that I try to publish on Fridays, and it always comes out Saturday because I tend to forget. So if you really want to help out, there is a Patreon, patreon.com/WGBmanga. You can hear some bonus episodes, and hey, Patreon has a free level now, so you can go and just subscribe to us there and see some of the free stuff, even if you don't pay us any money. Check me out on Twitter at WGB Manga if you want to suggest something or talk or chat with me. I'm open there. I'm open in the comments too. I've replied to every comment we've ever gotten on the Manga Podcast channel, so take that as you will. I won't tell you how many comments we've gotten, but I have replied to every single one. Yeah, as always, hey, thank you so much for being with us. Please come back next week.
Goodbye.
Don't forget to read more manga.